Okay, folks, welcome to the Weekly Orbit, where we try to consolidate all of the news of Rocketpool into one small show for you while you're eating your breakfast on Saturday morning. I'm Pat, and I'm here with the esteemed, the one and only prominent community member of Rocketpool, guy with his own daily show, Whack. How are you, Whack?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. I just wrapped up my Friday episode and I'm getting that ready to go out. And I'm here talking to you now, and I'm really excited about this.
Putting in a shameless plug for your show right off the bat. That's great. So, just a little bit about us. I've been in crypto a few years. Been following Rocketpool since the original launch, and back in November of 21. And I was happy to meet a lot of great folks at ETH Denver, along with you, Wack. We met up, and one thing coming away, if you've never been to ETH Denver, it's great because you go there, and when you leave, you think, wow, some of the smartest giga brains in the world are working on this stuff, and then you meet with everyone in Rocketpool, and you're like, wow, some of those giga brains are working in Rocketpool. And when you leave, you just can't help but feel great about crypto in general, and particularly Rocketpool and all the great work that has been done and the future too. I think it's really bright. So um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so we met up, and I was actually inspired, Whack, by you. You several months back, you said you put a challenge out to community members who, hey, what can you do to contribute? What can you volunteer to contribute towards Rocketpool? And I'm not a technical guy, not a software engineer. My background's in economics, and I thought, hey, well, why don't I try, this podcasting thing and work with you? So let's get to it. Huh?
Let's do it.
All right. Okay. So let's start with Rocket Scan. We're going to go over some metrics for the week. And, if you've never used this is a one-stop shop. Shows all the analytics for Rocketpool. And one of our community members maintains this. Who is it, Whack?
Petrus.
Petrus. Yes.
Petrus,
Great
yeah.
job. Um, Now, what we see right now is we got a whole ton of mini pools waiting 2008-21, 168 bond reductions. And I mean, this has just been really active over the last week. And it's really great to see Atlas has taken off and doing exactly as we had hoped. And what's really cool is right here, you can see where Atlas took off. That little looks like it's going vertical here, that last little bump. And I mean, how do you feel about this, Whack? I mean, the Atlas upgrade, we were talking about it for weeks and months, and now it's here.
Yeah.
What are your initial impressions?
So I think Atlas was like the great hope for Rocketpool, because we've really struggled with scaling, right, over the last year and a half and growth. So there were a lot of metrics where we were ahead of everyone else, like decentralization, trustlessness, permissionlessness, all of that good stuff. Like, we were the only all green Ethereum Foundation staking pool. Like, all of that stuff was amazing, but we just weren't able to grow in the way that we really wanted to. So like over, the course of a year and a half, pretty much since mainnet launch, we had around 13,500 mini pools,
Mhm.
which was respectable, right? Like, everyone in ETH staking knew what Rocket Pool was and who we were. And, we've really punched above our weight for our size. However, with Atlas, all of that is changing now, where we are able to grow 3 times faster compared to what we were doing before. And there's been so much demand for like this new version of Rocket Pool that has been tremendous. Like, if you just move your cursor a little bit to the left, so you can see like right before that, right before the raise this like 2 weeks ago, there was like 13,000, like, yeah, 13,900, 14,000 mini pools basically, right?
Right.
Validated as a Rocket Pool. Since then, we've had 2,000 something come online, and we've
Right.
got another 5,000 that are waiting to come online as well, right there, like the pending nearly 3,000 and another 2,400 in the queue. So those numbers are just like amazing. Like, we've had nearly 50% of growth right there
Mhm.
as soon as those get through the queues. And that is like really tremendous. And I
Right.
really think this is just the beginning, right? So I think the next page you want to go to is the deposit pool tab.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's
So
check that out.
yeah, have a look. What do you see here, Pat?
Well, let's do a look at the daily first. So the Atlas went live on, was it April 18th, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Okay. So you see the initial, I mean, we had 9,577 of ETH just drop in that day. And then, it dropped off a little bit to 950, but then you see here once the wheels started turning, starting on the 21st, you had almost 2,500 ETH, 1,700 ETH, 1,300 ETH, 1,200 ETH. And now this last several days, you got 8,500, 4,800, 5,000. I mean, it looks like we're averaging almost 6,000 ETH a day, and it's, now that the wheels are starting to turn, it's I see this trend line going up, and part of it might be Kraken. I know the deposits, the Kraken had because of the SEC, US, stakers had to they had to release their ETH back in to those who had staked with Kraken, and I'm assuming some of this might be ETH coming from Kraken. Um, and then sometime next month, possibly Lido finally gets their act together, and folks will be able to withdraw. And I see going in the Atlas upgrade, I thought this is really it's gonna take some time for the great reshuffling, as Anthony Sassano has called it, I think. And we're seeing the beginnings of it, and it all looks great. I mean, what can you say? And then if we switch to the weekly, kind of give it a little farther out view,
yeah,
you can see here, the week of April 9th, 2096, and then it jumps to 16,000, and then we're going 26,000 for April
yeah,
23rd. But if we compare 26,775, I mean, we scroll down the list here, and I think you pointed this out on your show. The last time we were up anywhere near that was,
at the merch.
yeah, maybe September 25th. You had about
Mm.
13,798.
Doubled it.
We've
Yeah.
blown that away. I mean, we're
Mhm.
at 26,775. So this is all looking great. And I think we're just at the beginning, like I said.
Absolutely. So the really interesting thing here is like for this week, we've still got another few days left, and we are already at this week on track to beat the best ever month that Rocket Pool has had since mainnet launch. So if you look at the monthly, like we're at
Yeah.
27,000 pretty much now, and September of 2022 and March of 2022 we had 30,000. So we are pretty much on track to beat the best ever monthly ETH deposits into the deposit contract for minting our ETH. So this growth has been amazing to see. And like you
Right.
said, this isn't just the Kraken thing, although that definitely is part of it. But Coinbase are losing people as well who are coming to Rocket Pool, which is amazing to see.
Right.
But there's also big things that are happening in the next few months that will keep this going, I think. One, like you just mentioned, is Lido. We're expecting to take a nice amount of Lido's stakers to bring them to Rocket Pool, which would be amazing. And then also, there's some DeFi things that are kind of being hinted at and being teased that will really help Rocket Pool grow, I think, as well. So the next few months are really bright, and as Jasper likes to say, this is the beginning of the orange cascade. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Pat, how has this impacted the price? Like, can you share that
Sure.
information?
Yeah. Let's go to CoinGecko here. We're tracking the price of RPL token. And this is let's do the 7-day chart.
Yeah,
Okay. And so we'll go back to April 22nd or so. And the price, US dollar price was $47. But the price we really want to focus on, how is RPL compared to ETH? Because ETH is
yeah,
the gold standard here. So the ratio was 0.0248 at the beginning of the week.
yeah,
And fast forward to now, and we're at 0.0247. So we're about flat for the week.
yeah.
Um,
And
and US dollar price too, it's about $47 as
yeah,
well.
it's been pretty much a flat week. So this idea of Rocket Pool's having so much great growth, why isn't the price going up, right? Like people are kind of asking that question, but I think that's kind of the wrong question to ask. So for example, if you click on like the 90-day chart or like the 180-day chart, even 180-day chart, I think is better. You
Yeah.
can see that a lot of growth happened towards the end of 2022, and I think that's when people were kind of getting ready for for Atlas and getting their positions ready to be ready to stake, and that kind of had a blow off top in February, right, beginning of February, where we hit the all-time high on the ETH ratio, and that was amazing, right? Like it was so euphoric. But since then, I think the fact that we've shown so much stability is definitely a really strong sign of building a good platform here. And you have to remember that this where we are right now is pretty much double of where we were in November, and
Yeah.
where we kind of stayed for a long time. 0.012
Yeah.
around that kind of point. That was like the upper bound. But since we've broken through that, we're now sitting pretty comfortably, I think, right now, about 100% up from there. So I think
100% up in 6 months. I
it's
mean,
and that's against ETH, right? Against the
that's
US dollar,
against ETH. That's against
it's
ETH, right?
4x against the US dollar. So from the
Absolutely.
November lows. So that is definitely I think you have to look at it slightly longer time frames. Um the shorter time frames can be kind of deceiving, I think, in
Oh yeah.
you think that there's not enough growth or anything like that. We know, right, because we're looking at other metrics, that the fundamental growth is amazing. I think price is just like a lagger in some cases here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And going back to the our ETH deposits here, one thing you notice is for April we're at 60,000 ETH so far, deposits totaling 1364. When we go back to September, it was 30,000, but we had almost 2,400 deposits.
Mm.
We had a lot of more deposits, but smaller amounts. And what you're seeing here is
Yeah.
we're getting less deposits, but in larger amounts. And what
So there's
that,
some nuance to that as well.
oh
So
yeah,
sorry to interrupt you. So in August and September, there was an NFT challenge, and one of the criteria for getting an NFT was minting our ETH. So there were a whole lot of people putting in, I think, zero point 0.1 ETH deposits
right.
into the deposit pool. So that number is artificially inflated. So those 2 months are kind of outliers in terms of growth. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can see that we were kind of comfortably in the three digits for a while. In
Yep.
March, that big pump was because of the curve pool starting. So there was a lot of demand for our ETH that month.
Yep.
But other than that, we were kind of like sitting in the three digits with that huge spike in August and September. That was
Yep.
mostly because of that NFT. And then after that, we've kind of still been in the three digits, except from this year, we've kind of moved up into the four digits. So now we're kind of building a base in the four digits. And I really
Right.
think that, in the next few months, we should be pushing that into like the mid four digits per month, which
Yeah.
would
I
be
almost feel
really
like we're
great.
going to be in four digits now for a while.
I think
I think it
so.
might be
I
the
think so.
standard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think and like March kind of went down to three digits there, but I think that will be more of an outlier, and it's more likely that we'll see like consistent four-digit months coming up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to some of the top stories for the week. And you highlighted Fornax's article during one of your episodes, and they did a nice job with kind of describing Atlas and the going into some details. One thing that he does nicely is describing this this community driven idea of balancing the supply and demand between a node operator queue and those who want our ETH. Okay, and um, what, could you talk about that and how this came up from the bottom up through the Rocketpool community and then was
Yeah,
later implemented into Atlas?
absolutely. So Valdorf had this idea like a few months ago of changing how the queue worked a little bit, so that if there was a long queue, it could move a little bit faster to get people staking. And what happened was he wasn't that keen on the idea. But Fornax, who wrote this article that you have on the screen here, um, had kind of pushed for it, right? And kind of said that, actually this is really good. The really smart thing about this idea is, so say in the queue there's 10 people. Person number one is in line to go, like, kind of go next, but they're waiting for ETH deposits to come through. So as person number two, person number three, person number four enters the queue and they bring their 8 ETH, all of those people's ETH will be combined together and given to person number one to
Mhm.
complete a validator and start staking. So even though there isn't new deposits coming in, new mints coming in for our ETH, people in the queue are kind of helping the people at the front move along. And the really interesting thing about this is that those rewards will all go to our ETH holders, right?
Right.
Instead of the people who are giving the ETH, those rewards will be going to the our ETH holders. So that is giving a huge boost to the our ETH APR, because there's literally thousands of people in the queue right now, right? So it's happening many, many, many times. So it's as if the our ETH holders are getting like this multiplying effect, and we've seen that in the APR this week. So as the as the APR goes up, then more people want to get our ETH, which then actually clears the queue, which then
Hmm.
makes the APR go down, which means that more people get stuck in the queue, which boosts the APR. So it's like this up and down cycle, but
Yeah.
it's really great because it balances out the demand that we have for our ETH with the queue, right? So as the queue gets longer, APR gets better,
Mhm.
eh, our ETH gets more desirable,
Yep.
then then more people mint our ETH to get that reward, which then reduces the
The queue.
rewards because the
Right.
queue goes down. So it's this really beautiful mechanism that kind of keeps the queue moving. And even when the queue is not moving, it boosts the APR on our ETH, which will then get the queue moving. So it's a really the actual like implementation of this. I don't think anyone really foresaw how beautiful and elegant this was going
It
to
is.
be. And it's just a really really great thing that Fornax and community members, like you said, right? It's all from community members how they're able to put this together
Absolutely.
and get this out to like just sweeten the deal for Rocket Pool that little bit more. Um, it's really wonderful to
It's
see.
really elegant. And,
Yeah,
when the idea of, but in the prior to Atlas, if we had a queue,
yeah,
we had all this ETH by node operators put in, they had their 16 ETH, they deposit it, and it kind of sits there day after
hmm,
day after day until, they're at the front of the line and it goes onto the beacon chain.
yeah,
But it's sitting there not earning any yield. And then this beautiful idea of, well, why don't we, as you said in your example, 10 people in line, why don't we take the 10th person's ETH and move it up to the first person so they can match it up, boom, get into the start earning beacon chain rewards, which then go back to our ETH holders, which
hmm,
boosts the APR, which makes it more attractive. So folks, the market will say, hey, boy, Rocket Pool's APR is going up. I should trade, swap some ETH or mint ETH. I'm sorry, mint our ETH by depositing my ETH into Rocket Pool,
yeah,
which then lowers the queue,
yeah,
which then when as the queue goes down, some node operator sitting on the sidelines waiting for the queue to go down, say, hey, queue's gone down, I'm going to put mine in. So it's like a seesaw, right?
yeah,
But it's balancing by code,
yeah.
every 12 seconds or every day, it's automatically readjusting itself based on market conditions.
Hmm.
Don't you wish that like the Federal Reserve could act so nimbly and elegantly as that? It's really great how code can work, and you just let it run and it'll balance itself out.
There's some really great examples of this kind of idea working other places as well, right? Like, after 1559, the ETH mint and like a issuance rate is kind of like in that same kind of balanced seesaw. So as more burn happens, then the issuance is reduced, which makes it more valuable, which means people don't want to use their ETH. And then as they don't use their ETH, the burn stops, which means the issuance goes up. And it's just like really nice,
Yeah,
elegant cycle as well. So it's
beautiful.
really like genius mechanisms that these guys have come up with, and
Sure.
this is really going to help Rocket Pool, I think, in the next period. As I really think that over the next 4 to 6, like 3 to 6 months, we are going to be oversupplied with node operators. Well, unless those certain DeFi things come to happen, in which case it can swing quite quickly. But for the foreseeable future, we are
Mhm.
definitely like node operator constrained. Sorry, ETH constrained. So this is going to be like a nice boost in that during that
Sure.
period to help us keep things moving.
Yeah, let's talk about some of those DeFi integrations. I know like Jasper and others in the community have been really pushing over the last year. It's really started to get more DeFi protocols to use and integrate our ETH into them.
Yeah.
Um, I know that Chainlink was, in 20, wasn't Chainlink, they're now running an Oracle that came
Mhm.
just after
Yeah,
the first of the year, I think, right?
just a couple of months ago. Yeah, we finally
Yeah.
got the Chainlink Oracle go live, and that's really opened the doors for a lot of really great stuff that's happening, and that's going to continue to happen. So I think
Yeah.
it's
And
gonna
then
work really nicely.
Aave, sounds like there's a push to allow for E mode, which
Hmm.
would, I think, would really push our ETH adoption. If, and
Absolutely.
E mode, if you want to jump in there and explain to our listeners what that
Yeah.
does, but essentially allows you to fold and borrow. You borrow and then you put it back in, borrow, and you just keep boosting your yield. And
Yeah.
it's a little degenerate type of activity. But why don't you explain to listeners real quick what emo
Yeah.
would do? Not only what it is, but what you expect it would do for adoption for our ETH.
So for our ETH adoption, I think eMode will allow us to really grow how much our ETH we have. And the reason for that is because a person who deposits one ETH into the deposit pool right now will get just less than one R ETH back. However, with eMode, that person can do those, DeFi games, and with one ETH that they want to bring of their own, they could get 4, 5, 6 R ETH out of the deposit pool. And the reason for that is because as you put ETH into Aave, you can borrow ETH back in return for that. So then you deposit that into the deposit pool, use that R ETH again to borrow more ETH, and you do this multiple times, which is why it's called like folding or hyper staking.
Mm-hmm.
And with this, what happens is the rewards on the R ETH that you mint is like right now, it's 5.135%. The borrowing rate for ETH on Aave might be 3% or
Right.
2% or something along those lines. So that gap in between, you can eat that gap basically.
Right.
So as you do it each time, you're adding that extra 3% to your rewards each time, whatever the gap is between the borrowing and rewards rate. And you keep that yourself. So if you do it 10 times, you could have an APR of 30, 40, 50% or something along those kind of
Right.
numbers, whatever it might end up being. So that is going
Until
to
until that borrowing rate equals out to the APR,
exactly. Yeah,
right? And as
and
more
then
people are
yeah,
borrowing, the higher the
yeah,
rate's going to go. So it eventually meets
it'll
an
balance out.
equilibrium. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And then once it reaches that
Mm.
equilibrium, then it'll stop. But before reaching that equilibrium, we could potentially see, a million R ETH being minted.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
Yeah, potentially,
um,
potentially. But we
yeah.
then we'll need node operators to do that, right? And then that's where
Mm.
people like Thomas and other big whales might be incentivized to convert um, their huge nodes into Rocketpool, into LEB8s.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we were talking about, folks who want to integrate into DeFi, but you've got, what kind of crypto investors are going to use RE? If you start at the top, you've got, your whales, of course, but then also
Mhm.
DAOs. If you have a DAO treasury, maybe
Yeah.
you got say 50,000 ETH sitting in your treasury and you want to diversify, earn some yield on the ETH,
Mhm.
perhaps you take 10,000 of that and you deposit it into Rocketpool to get some R ETH back.
Yeah.
I think DAOs, they've been waiting. I have a feeling there's a lot of DAOs just they've been kind of waiting because our deposit pool before was only like 5,000.
And it
Now
was
that
full.
it was full all the time.
Yeah.
Now we got that flexibility. And I think over the next 6 months, you're going to see more DAOs diversifying their treasury
Yep.
and using our ETH as part of that.
It's really exciting. So shall we move on to the hot proposal?
Yep. Yeah. And then our last big news item is a proposal by a couple of community members in Rocketpool. We've got Jasper and Dipsy. So when L2 has really taken off, TVL for Arbitrum and Optimism has been going up and to the right, and our ETH is on both those.
Mhm.
But if you want to move our ETH from L1 to L2 or vice versa, there's no fast bridge to do that. You have to go through the native bridge, which usually is a 7-day wait. They've come up with a great proposal for Hop to help bridge that so you can instantly take your R ETH from one L2 to L1 or L1 to L2. Do you have any thoughts on this and how it would help um, increase our ETH participation?
Absolutely. Yeah. So with Hop, what
Mm.
happens is like right now you can send your ETH to the layer 2 quite easily, or your R ETH in this case. You can send it and it'll take, 10, 15 minutes, I think, 5 minutes to half an hour pretty much. But the issue is getting it back to mainnet. That's what takes 7 days because both of these are optimistic rollups and they require fraud, like they need to do like all the checks to make sure that there's nothing bad that's happened on layer 2, and that takes 7 days. So that's like slow bridging back. However, Hop is like a fast bridge, right? So that
Yeah.
will they'll like put up a bond for
Mm.
you to say, hey, this person legit, and let them like we'll give it to them on the other side, and then we'll keep it. We'll do it ourselves basically. So
Right.
they eat that 7 days, and in return they take a fee of I think 0.05% of your amount. But with Hop, Dibsy is one of the delegates, and Jasper, of course, is really a active community member
Mm.
when it comes to DeFi stuff. So this vote has
Mm.
pretty much passed, even though we have to wait until tomorrow for the official passing. There's literally been 99.94% of people have voted in favor of this. So
Yeah.
it's huge positive. The really great thing that will happen because of this is people will move their RETH to Optimism and Arbitrum, where there's some really nice boosted yields and rewards
Oh, yeah.
for those liquidity providing and other things that are happening there. Um, I think that is going to be another facet of growth that will happen because people might be priced out of hyper staking on layer 1, but with things on layer 2, they can do it for pennies on the dollar compared to mainnet. So this will, I
Brilliant.
think, really help growth go forwards.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long it'll take after this vote passes for them to start using our ETH, but I'm hoping that it's a matter of days and weeks instead of months.
Yeah, I absolutely think in the future, I think most retail is going to be using L2, and
Mhm.
this just makes sense, we're planting seeds for the next, 6, 12, 18, 24 months.
Exactly.
This is where the
Yeah.
growth is going to be, is on an
Yeah.
L2.
And
There'll
getting that
always
into,
there'll always be stuff on L1, but in terms
yeah.
of the affordability on gas fees, it's L2 all the way.
Exactly. And I think that's what we're really getting into a good position for now is like the protocol Ethereum as a whole is getting into a really good position now, is that we have these good layer 2s that are improving every day, and they're
Yeah,
usable, they're very usable, and by the time we welcome the masses again for the next bull run that will hopefully be here within the next year or two, we'll be in a really good position to absorb a lot of that demand instead of sending them to alt layer ones.
sure. Yep. Okay, well, that wraps it up for the inaugural episode of the Weekly Orbit. Listen, guys, none of this is financial advice, legal advice, tax advice, professional advice. It's just two guys talking crypto. If you like the video, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll be back next week for another one. Take care,
Thank you so
guys.
much.
See you, Black.